Hiya, my name's John Dean and I'm a crime writer based in Dumfries and Galloway. I was delighted when Angela from Dumfries and Galloway Library Service asked me to take part in this question and answer because, as will become clear, libraries are very close to my heart. For those who don't know me, I'm with the Book Folks, a London-based publisher, 21 novels to my name, and I've created DCI John Blizzard and DCI Jack Harris, both of which are series. I'm also the Crime Writers Association's library champion in Scotland. There are two of us, one south of the border, Priscilla Masters, and myself north of the border. And our job is to liaise between libraries and Crime Writers Association to let people know about the Crime Readers Association that the Crime Writers Association set up and brings readers and writers together, and also, where necessary, to speak up for libraries, to celebrate them, and to speak up in a non-political way if they're threatened by cutbacks and closures. So that's me, and it leads me on to the first question. Thanks for the questions people sent, much appreciated. It's from Angela. How did having access to libraries shape you as a writer? Well, they did shape me as a writer, as they do shape many writers, because they help create, particularly in young people, I think, when first starting out, that love of books. We live in an age of Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of stuff, and it's important that we stand up for the hard copy book as well, and libraries help do that, particularly for people of all ages who can't just go out and buy a new book if they want one. Libraries provide a valuable service, and that's why we as an organisation celebrate them. So that's how they helped me. My dad was a librarian, so I grew up surrounded by books and surrounded by libraries. Second question was, which crime writers have influenced you the most and what book are you reading right now? And that's from Anne. Thank you, Anne. I'm actually reading, somewhat traditionally, The Return of Sherlock Holmes. Rereading it because I've read it a number of times. And Sherlock Holmes is my favourite crime fictional detective, always has been. Whenever I take part in those surveys that crime writers take part in from time to time, when we're asked who our favourite detective is, it's Sherlock Holmes. I could say Rebus, I could say all sorts, but it's Sherlock Holmes because he's an absolutely brilliant creation. Writers that influence me, all sorts of writers, every writer influences me. Peter May for his description example, Peter James, another crime writer that you'll have heard of, for his brilliant use of detail. Ian Robinson, who I know well, is a writer who shows how important it is to have an authentic feel to your stories, to feel that the writer knows what they're talking about. So there's some of the ones. Giancarlo asks, what's the best opening scene you've ever read or written in a crime novel? I thought I ought to pick one of mine. This is from A Flicker in the Night. I've been teaching for 20 years and I teach a lot of writers who are just starting out. And one of the things I spend a lot of time on in my courses is beginnings. The need to reach out to the reader and grab them by the collar and bring them into your story. And a good start does that. There are some faces that never fade from memory. Some crimes so vile that they can never be forgiven. And some men whose names simply cannot be forgotten. Not now, not ever. Reginald Morris is one such man. It's not that the northern city of Hafton hasn't tried to forget him. It's just that for many of its residents, out of sight is not out of mind. Every time dusk falls and streetlights come on, people remember Reginald Morris. Darkness was his time, you see. It is still his time. Sitting in his office that rainy afternoon, Detective Chief Inspector John Blizzard wished he could say that he was immune from such thoughts, that he was a hard-headed policeman who regarded Reginald Morris as just another criminal safely locked away. However, Blizzard, like every officer involved in the inquiry, had been affected in some way. That is because even when he finally lies lifeless in his cold and neglected grave, Reginald Morris will live on. And I felt that was the best beginning I'd written because it intrigued the reader, I hope. I hoped it dragged the reader on, made them want to find more. Thanks for the question, Giancarlo. Good one. Question 4. Where do you get the inspiration for the different types of murder deaths that take place in your books? Thanks for that question, Kirsty. to me, it's not so much about the methods, the different types of murders, although I try and select ones that are appropriate to the book. It's more motive, it's more what makes people kill, what makes them do the things they do, what are the things they're trying to achieve, they're trying to protect, they're trying to hide. That's what interests me. So I try and make the murder something that fits the theme of the book, and I don't go too gory. I know a lot of crime writers do, and a lot of readers like it, but for me, I don't particularly want to do gore. Angela asked, how has your experience as a journalist helped with your writing crime fiction? I was a journalist for 40 odd years, retired last year to concentrate on my novels. And for me, being a journalist gave me a massive store of inspiration. You know, a lot of the time in my career I was a crime reporter, so I met police officers, I met villains, I met murderers, I met robbers, I met forensics people, I met all sorts of people, and for me it gives me something to draw on and is immensely useful. Question 6. When you're creating characters like Jack Harris and John Blizzard, do you know that you'll be basing a series of books on them, or do you just start with a single book idea based around them? That's Kerry. Thanks, Kerry. I think on both examples, I started writing a novel that I thought would be a standalone. That was the case with both detectives, but what became clear as I was writing is that there was depth to the characters, and I wanted to find out more about them, and the way of finding out more about them is to write more books. And there was a series of characters around them as well, who were recurring characters. I wanted to find out about them as well, and the best way to explore a character for a writer is to write them. How long does it take to write a first draft, asked Ian. Well, it depends really. I've been known to write a first draft in 3 months, or it could take 6 months, but for me the first draft is just that. The real work begins when you've got something down on paper or on computer screen. That's when you polish and hone and rewrite and rework and edit and add in and take out. That's for me when the real work goes on. So the first draft is something to work on. The real work follows on from that. Where do you get your inspiration from, asks Ian. You know, you get asked this question from time to time when we give talks. All writers get the question from time to time. Where do you get your ideas from? And the glib answer is, don't get the ideas, they get you. And it may be glib, but it's absolutely true. If I went out now with the dog, take the dog down to the cops as I do most days, and set out with the express reason of coming up with an idea, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to do it. But if my mind's empty, and it is a lot of the time, my family would say, it allows ideas to come in. You see something, you hear something, you read a snippet, maybe it's in the newspaper, hear something on the news, hear something on the back seat of a bus, whatever it is, you hear it and it sets something going, it triggers ideas, and then suddenly you've got an idea that's inspiring you. And the final question is do you think there's a body count limit per book? Thanks, Diane, for that question. I know you're a crime writer as well. I don't think there is a body limit, but I don't think it's enough just to say, oh, the story's falling a bit flat, time to murder someone. I think you commit only the murders that the story needs, only what is relevant to the story. You don't overdo it, you don't underdo it, you do what is needed. And from my point of view, the story dictates that. It depends on what the characters are doing and what the characters are saying. It's also worth pointing out it's a question, it's a good question, and one that makes you realise what a strange and weird world crime writers and crime readers inhabit. That's me. I hope you've enjoyed the answers. Thanks for sending the questions. Bye.